The topic of the week is about control and choice. And what I'm going to talk about a little more specifically is responsibility. So, no doubt there's a whole lot going on in your life that you can't control. For some of us, it's about aging, losing control of some of our capacities as we age, as we become ill, perhaps our physical capacities, perhaps our mental capacities, perhaps some of both. And it seems to me like we're losing control of our democracy and, you know, losing control of our independence. Lots of other ways you might be unable to control what you wish you could or maybe what you used to be able to control. But we never had all the choices we wished we'd have, no matter what is going on outside in our aging. Um, but I think that the work here, the challenge here, is to become more of the aware of the choices we have in the conditions we find ourselves in. The conditions we find ourselves in now, because that keeps changing. Perhaps our understanding or interpretation of what it means to be in the present, that we are aware of what's going on now and what might be possible now. So then I think the question becomes, how can we be in this process with some gracefulness? And I think that part of what helps that is remembering a core teaching in Buddhism, the teaching of anicca, the teaching that this is the nature of our existence. Things shift and change, things break, everything ends at some time, at some point, we die. So last Saturday, one of my most long-term groups, the Elephant Sangha, and this group has been together, I think, for over a decade, but many people longer than that. Well, we went on a day-long retreat to this most beautiful place, um, the vacation home of one of the members of the group, out the Columbia Gorge. Quite beautiful. Right actually at the edge of the Columbia Gorge. Not scarily at the edge, but with an incredible view and perspective. And we went out there very specifically to move. We had created memorial stones for two of the members of the group that had died. They died not close in time, but had died over the last decade. At any rate, we made these memorial stones, and we had this intention to move them up to this vacation home for the long haul. Um, and we did that on Saturday. Um, and there was this point at which she said, this really made me feel good that, so this is kind of co-owner thing, vacation place, different people go different times. And she said that none of that the co-owners had really thought about the future of this piece of land. And there was like, I think she said they had five kids in the next generation, and they let them know that they were going to get the place, they were going to care to give the land and these memorial stones. But on Saturday, we spent quite a bit of time remembering that the women's names were Val and Jean, their lives, their quirkiness, their struggles, their wisdom. But along with this grieving, there was a lot of laughter. And maybe this goes along the lines of a common adage, which is the knowledge of impermanence and death makes our lives more precious. I think that we felt that preciousness about our group that Saturday. We feel it often, but I think it was extra amplified. So what I am describing here is an alternative to feeling victimized. So as we do, I went to the dictionary and I looked up the definition of victims, and the definition was someone or something that has been hurt, damaged, or killed, or has suffered, either because of the action of someone else or or something else, or because of illness or chance. That sounds like a definition of dukkha, doesn't it? So then, in that sense, the question becomes how to be with dukkha without like having a victim mentality about it. which might be about not blaming other people or situations for the dukkha in our lives, not using that to deflect how to live with this dukkha. So the alternative or unalternative, let's say, is responsibility to cultivate the ability to respond with greater discernment, with greater awareness, discernment, and kindness to the conditions you find yourself in, and discovering the choices you might have given these conditions. Now, again, not the choices you might want or not the choices perhaps that you had in the past, but the choices that are possible in your life now. And this all made me think about Viktor Frankl. I'm sure most of you know about him. He lived through incarceration in a Nazi concentration camp, and then went on to write a book about man's search for meaning. And I find him uh, inspiring because, wow, if you can find a way to live in a concentration camp without total victimization, that's 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 a very high bar. So I found this quote from his book, which I thought was interesting. Freedom, however, is not the last word. Freedom is only part of the story and half of the truth. Freedom is but the negative aspect of the whole phenomena, whose positive aspect is responsibleness. In fact, freedom is in danger of degenerating into mere arbitrariness unless it is lived in the terms of responsibleness. Now, this last line, I don't know. I'm going to read it, but it's a little whatever. That is why I recommend the Statue of Liberty on the East Coast be supplemented by a Statue of Responsibility on the West Coast. So that's what he said. But why am I talking at this right now? Why does this have to do with the practice we're doing, with reflective meditation practice? In our practice, we invite you to actually allow the conditions to go on some more, to be more subject to them, rather than trying to control them with any particular attentional focus or meditation instruction. Of course, you can do that, but also perhaps at times invite in whatever comes. Be subject to the conditions in your life. And I feel a sense of freedom to go where my attention takes me. But to quote Viktor Frankl, or maybe the point of this whole talk, this needs to be accompanied by responsibleness. Again, responding carefully and caringly to the conditions that present themselves to you in your meditation. I invite you to do that in the meditation period that's going to follow very soon. But of course, the point of doing that is so that you can do it, better able to do it in your life and in the days to come. So I will end the talk there.